Let's take a trip through time as I do a retrospective on a system that was a big part of my childhood, the Nintendo GameCube. In the summer of the year 2000, this classic console was revealed to the world as Nintendo's first console of the 21st century, their entry into the 6th generation of consoles that saw the launch of the Sega Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 that same year. Then at E3 2001, Nintendo unveiled the GameCube's launch lineup of games that showed the GameCube as a powerful system with far superior graphics than the N64. Games like Luigi's Mansion, Super Monkey Ball, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, several sports games, the first Pikmin, and one of the system's most legendary titles, Super Smash Bros. Melee. These games showed that the system ran smoother than its predecessor and had better graphics than the Dreamcast and PS2. I actually didn't get a GameCube until the year after it came out, but when I did, I made sure to get the Smash Bros. Bundle, and I instantly loved the system. The controller was fantastic, the games being on discs were more reliable than the old cartridges, and who could forget that system opener with the rolling cube. As time went on, the GameCube got even more classics from Nintendo, including the landmark Metroid Prime from Retro Studios. We also got 2 Star Fox games, 4 Mario parties, Mario Kart Double Dash, 2 Zelda games, and Nintendo's first directly published M-rated horror title, Eternal Darkness, one of the best horror games ever made. The GameCube also had much better third-party support than the N64. People have attributed this to Nintendo really trying with system power and standardized development. As a result, we got a lot of great third-party games on the GameCube too. The first 4 Splinter Cell games, Resident Evil 4, the RE1 remake, plus RE2, 3, and Code Veronica, The Simpsons Hit and Run, several 007 games, and Timesplitters 2 and Future Perfect. A lot of my favorite games came out during the GameCube era. It was a powerful system that came out at a time when first and third-party developers were trying new and creative things and making classic after classic. It also had the Game Boy Advance player, which was a great add-on too, allowing you to play GBA games on the big screen with a GameCube controller. Nowadays we just have the eShop, but back then there was no eShop, so this was a great addition. Although the GameCube did have some online functionality, hence why it worked with Ethernet, but it was so bare bones and hardly ever used that most of us didn't even know it was there. And maybe 2 or 3 games out of the whole library actually used online functions. One more advantage the GameCube had was being the most portable console. It was smaller and lighter than the rest, and even came with a handle on the back. Nintendo wanted people to bring the GameCubes over to their friends' houses for multiplayer mayhem. This portability and full library of amazing multiplayer games made the GameCube the ideal party console. But with everything that was great about the GameCube and its games, why didn't it sell as well as the PS2 and Xbox? Also, why didn't it get every third-party game its competitors got? Well, like the Wii, a large part of that was due to its reputation. Although it was less expensive than the competition, its limited, bare-bones, almost non-existent internet prevented it from getting games that focused heavily on online multiplayer such as Star Wars Battlefront. Another thing was the mini DVDs that were used. Despite the system's high power, the discs simply couldn't hold as much as a standard DVD, resulting in some games needing to be made on 2 discs. A lot of developers didn't like that, so some of them just didn't even bother trying. There was also harm from some critics who said the GameCube had a toyish look. This, along with a lot of family-friendly games the system had, gave the GameCube a reputation as being the kid-friendly or family-friendly system instead of the mature systems the PS2 and Xbox supposedly were. Of course, it didn't help that those systems got GTA and the GameCube didn't. Third-party games on the GameCube also didn't sell as well as they did on the competitors' consoles, which resulted in more developers skipping support for the system altogether. Though I say this reputation wasn't entirely fair. Sure, there were a fair amount of mature and teen-rated games the system didn't get, but it still got a lot of others. Most of the shooters I own are on the GameCube, most of the Resident Evil games I own are on the GameCube, plus there's games like True Crime, Hitman 2, Blood Omen 2, Prince of Persia, Killer 7, and 2 Mortal Kombat games, not to mention Eternal Darkness. So perhaps Nintendo didn't do a good enough job to show the world that the GameCube had a lot of mature games, but I also think it was that the GameCube didn't have as many features as the Xbox and PS2. Though the system failed sales-wise, many of us still appreciate the hours of fun the games provided, and that appreciation seems to have only increased in retrospect. Perhaps if the system used standard DVDs and had a fully functioning online service, it would have been more popular at the time than it was. But in the present, we can still enjoy replaying our favorites on the Wii and hope the games get digital re-releases on the Switch someday. And maybe by some miracle, more of the classics from that time will finally get sequels. Well, that's my look back at the Nintendo GameCube. Did you all like this video? What fond memories do you have of the GameCube? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the spooky month.